Hey folks, Dustin here with another video on the Disc Golf channel, and in this one we are going to be taking a look at the first round that I played at the Ram Jam Classic out at the University of Mobile. This was a fundraiser tournament to help make improvements to the main course at the campus, as well as start raising funds to eventually build a permanent second course on the University of Mobile campus. Now, I had posted some recent practice rounds on the temp course to kind of help some of the locals out, as well as just, put some content out there for the rest of you. And I've played the University of Mobile a couple of times on this channel, so you can kind of check that out. Not much has changed really since I filmed those practice round videos, so you want to check it out. And I came to this tournament feeling pretty good. I had played a couple of practice rounds on both the main course and the temp course over the last few weeks, and I was throwing pretty well and felt like I had a pretty good game plan on how I kind of wanted to attack the holes. And I went in, though, with not crazy expectations, but just looking to play the best that I could, just stay calm, just play smart, put in a lot of time on the putting green as well leading up to this event. So, I had the putt feeling pretty confident. Actually got a tip from Matt Givens, the guy who I do disc reviews with, and some of the practice rounds I've filmed, and it really helped my putting out. And so, without further ado, let's get into round number one. All right, so for round number one, I started on the temporary course, and I started on hole 6. Again, the full layout is on the channel from practice round I just put out. This is a pretty tight hole, just under 300 feet, but I just played it out to the right-hand side, staying away from the woods to the left, and threw a beautiful shot. Really awesome to be having that as my first tee shot of the tournament. Normally I'm a little bit shaky on the first shot of a tournament, but I managed to throw a great one and get the birdie. So starting 1 under on the first hole is awesome. I'm going to get the hole 7, the island hole, about 255, 260. Just threw my Iron Samurai 4 on a big hyzer, spiked it. Didn't catch it on film, but made that putt as well. So we're starting with back-to-back birdies. Now, this was a blind, kind of like 240-foot hyzer shot. So I had Tracy, my fiance, kind of film it from the corner. As you can see, I pushed it a little too forward. Didn't get enough hyzer on it, so I left myself the longer putt for birdie. But was able to hit it. And so I started off my tournament with a turkey. 3 birdies in a row. So definitely the best start I've ever had to a tournament, I think. But then I immediately followed it up with an awful tee shot there. Just yanked it right into the bush to the right of the gap I was trying to hit, which left me in a pretty tricky situation to try to get up and down and save par on this hole. Again, this hole is only about 250 feet, but definitely one of the more wooded holes on this temporary course, and got in some trouble, but managed to throw a pretty decent scramble shot. Still left myself, though, a pretty lengthy putt to save par. This is probably right outside circle 1. Maybe like 35 to 40 feet on this one. And, I mean, my putt was just feeling so good. And I think getting some good putts in early really helped build the confidence. And so I wound up saving par on that hole after a disastrous tee shot, which was awesome. So I'm still at 3 under par. This one, I just hung out a little too wide. I was trying to play like a stalling hyzer shot to the green, and I got caught up in these trees over here. Just needed to release it more inside, or maybe play a more overstable disc. Didn't really have much of a putt at this, so kind of just had to lay it up and take a par. But still, 3 under through the first 5 holes. Pretty solid. Now, for this tournament, we actually moved the tee to the road, and this road was closed off just to have better footing. Nearly aced it. Put it right behind the basket, as you can see here. Made the putt a little bit tricky. I had to kind of straddle out and putt through some branches, but still had to look at it. And there we go. I'm 4 down through 6, I believe. Something like that. Now I move on to hole 12. Just kind of a little tunnel shot. Low ceiling on the left-hand side. And just a little bit of an early release into that ceiling I was talking about. No problem, though. A pretty easy up and down the save par here. And so I threw just a little forehand. Almost gave it a slight bid, honestly, but very easy tap in to save par there. Now I get the hole 13. Kind of a treacherous little tunnel shot downhill. Unfortunately, this disc just flipped a little bit too much out of the hand, but it managed to kick back out into the fairway, which is exactly what I needed to have happen. I was totally fine with par on this hole, and I was able to, pitch it up there and grab my par and stay at 4 under. Now we get the hole 14. This is a hole I wasn't really expecting the birdie. It was about 360 feet, and it was pretty tight up near the green, so I was just really playing for par on this hole. Didn't quite turn that disc enough, so I got cut up early, making the approach shot to save my par a lot harder than what I was hoping for. Decided to play like a little low skip shot to try to get under the ceiling, but I did catch a branch, and it kind of knocked it down, so it shorted it a pretty good bit. And so now I'm left with another pretty lengthy putt. This is probably right at circle's edge to try to save par here. Definitely was looking for a more stress-free par on this hole, but not a great drive. But again, the putting was just on this first round. And so, you know, still no mistakes. Still, you know, bogey-free, 4 birdies, still 4 under. Hole 15 here. And I mean, threw the perfect flex backhand, and now I am at 5 under par through the first few holes. So that was almost bounced out, so it got a little bit scary there. So now we're at hole 16, a little just kind of short chip shot, kind of a transition hole for this temp course. It's like only like 160 feet, but threw a little chip forehand, got up there, and so now I am 6 under par through the first 10 holes. 6 under through 10, 6 under through 11, something like that. Now, real quick, I will pause here. I didn't catch the drive on film, but this was like a 315-foot, very uphill hole as a par 3, so it's probably playing closer to like 340. And I have the forehand distance to get to circle 1, and I tried to throw like a big forehand to try to see if I could give myself maybe like a circle 2 putt for birdie, because I was just feeling really good, feeling really confident. Things were going great, and so I decided, hey, I want to try to see if I can get up there and get the job done. But unfortunately, I wound up overturning the forehand into the road, and it never skipped back in bounds, and so I had to take it pretty far back. And so this is me throwing 3 on this hole. And then I just botched the upshot with an early release. And so, yeah, that was disappointing to just early release that forehand. And now I have an even longer putt to try to save bogey on this hole after going OB off the tee. Did not make it, and so that is a double bogey. And so that is unfortunate because I was really on a roll. You know, wasn't making any mistakes, was nailing some good birdies. And so this brought me back to, I believe, 4 under par. And so now we're on temporary course hole 18, which is just a normal course 16. It's like 560 feet uphill, par 4. This was looking pretty good, but as you can see, caught the curb on my way back in. So that's another OB stroke there. And so this is me throwing 3, trying to still see if I can salvage par. Threw a pretty solid shot. It's a little shorter than I wanted it to be, but there is OB deep of the pin, so I was trying, you know, to make sure I didn't bring that into play, which kind of caused me to short it a little bit. And unfortunately, the putt was just a couple of inches too high, and so I did not save par on that hole. I took a bogey. So after being 6 under through the first 10 or 11 holes, now I have taken a double and a single to drop me back down to 3 under par, which is really unfortunate. This hole threw a decent shot, but unfortunately I got stuck right behind this tree. And so even though I'm well within circle 1 for what would be lengthwise a really reasonable birdie putt, I have basically just, you know, there's nothing there. And so this was like the easiest hole on the course, and so I was really disappointed not to grab this birdie to try to bounce back with. So now we get the hole 2 on the temp course. Kind of a tricky little gap shot here. Unfortunately, I overturned the mess out of this tee shot. I wasn't really expecting to birdie this hole, honestly. It was going to be kind of a bonus hole if I got it. So I wasn't too upset. Obviously, I wish I would have given it a better effort. Nearly threw it in for birdie right there, actually. Wasn't trying to run it, but, you know, almost did. But, you know, gave myself a really kind of routine par putt here, and at least, you know, I'm stopping the bleeding by getting a couple of pars in a row. Now, this was like another 340 to 350-foot hole that was very tight. So, again, just looking for par on this hole. So I didn't really care too much where my drive landed as long as I could make a couple 100 feet of progress and put myself in a decent position. I knew I should be able to get up and down for par, which is the goal. And, you know, actually didn't throw that as high as I needed to and didn't get as much ground action as I hoped for. So I left myself a little bit more of a tester par putt than I had wanted. But again, the putt was feeling pretty good all around until I was able to nail that. And still at 3 under par as we move on to tip hole 4. This is one I was definitely looking to get. And I put it inside the base of the basket. I mean, can't ask for a much easier birdie than that. Love that. So that brings me back to 4 under par. And now we're on the final hole, tip hole number 5, about 370 feet. Threw a really good distance shot here. I actually wanted to be shorter than that, though, and more left to have an easier approach shot, because I was just playing this hole for par. But unfortunately, I pushed too deep, put myself in jail. Could not find a really clean approach shot to the basket. And so now this is the par putt I am left with, which is not what I wanted to end my round with at all. And I wound up putting a little too low, and that is that. So basically, to kind of go over the round, I started on hole number 6. So I was able to get the birdie with just a really awesome tee shot through a really tight kind of tunnel and a really clean putt. Then the island hole, I was able to park it, tap it in. Hole 8, I made a really lengthy birdie putt after not quite throwing the best drive. So started the turn with a turkey, which is really awesome. Hole 9, that's the one I yanked right into the woods, but I was able to make a nice little scramble shot and hit a really lengthy putt to save par. And so the confidence was really building after just hitting some really nice back-to-back putts on holes 8 and 9. 10, you know, got the par, no big deal. Immediately got the birdie on 11. So now, you know, I'm 4 down through 6, feeling really good. Par these holes, which is kind of the scores I expected to get in those holes, so everything was going according to plan there. Then 15, threw that beautiful flex shot, pretty much parked it. Birdie. 16 was probably the easiest hole on the course, just like a little chip, kind of fill the gap hole for the temp layout until I was able to get that. And so, yeah, I was basically 6 down through the first 11 or 12 holes, something like that. And, yeah, I was feeling really good. And then I just made the mistake of getting too aggressive on hole 17 and turning my forehand to the road, and it turned to a double bogey. Really should have just played that conservative for par. Should have just played something more overstable right at the basket, just hyzered out, pitched up, and took my par. And there was really no need to go for that. So that was just a mental error on my part, you know, just bad decision-making. Then hole 18, got really unlucky on that tee shot, hit the curb on the way back in bounds. So nearly was set up for birdie for that hole, because you really want to be on the right side of the fairway of that hole. Like, I'll actually kind of show you here. Like, the closer you are on this right-hand side, the better off you are to approach the basket. The more inside you are, the more trees and obstacles you have in your way. So as you can see, when I take this shot, you can see it's just like kind of this wide open hyzer lane. And so, in theory, this should have been my second shot, you know, with that wide open right-hand side. But unfortunately, that wound up being my third because I went OB. And so, yeah, instead of basically getting an easy par and potentially a birdie, I wound up taking a bogey on this hole. Again, really close. I'm not even really too upset about that one. I was just barely off. I mean, that wasn't really that big of a deal. But then after that, again, a little bit disappointing not to get hole 1 just because of how short it was. Just got stuck behind a tree, didn't have a putt. Expected the pars on 2 and 3. No surprise there. Hole 4, that was a really nice birdie to get. And then hole 5, man, that's just so disappointing, because if I just would have been a little bit more conservative on that hole as well and just played something a little more overstable, I would have been shorter and more left. And so instead of being tangled up in all these trees right over here, I would have been short of them and had a wide open lane to the basket. Instead, I was stuck behind all these trees and basically had to throw a really difficult approach shot, which I just couldn't get through everything. And so I wound up finishing the round with a bogey. And so, all in all, a pretty good round, but definitely a couple of disappointing things. And so, yeah, that is going to wrap it up for this first round of the Ram Jam Classic. I hope that you folks enjoyed the content here. I hope that you'll follow up and subscribe, leave a comment, leave a like, do all the things to help the channel grow. It wasn't that long ago that we hit 1,000 subscribers, and now we're already at 1,050. So we're definitely keeping the channel growing, which has been awesome. I really appreciate all the support. Again, this first round was definitely a round that started off really strong, you know, going 4 down through 6, 6 down through the first 11 or 12 holes. Really felt like I was on the verge of shooting a really big round, you know, like a round that would be rated over 950, and really helped me start building up my rating, since, you know, I'm trying to hit that goal of being 900 rated as soon as possible. You know, that's like really that first goal that I kind of want to hit now that I've won my first tournament. That was kind of the first goal, was to win one. Now it's really about trying to get above 900 rated and really put myself in a position to start being competitive like in the MA2 environment for next year. And again, this was a round that was so close. I had 7 birdies on this round, and I wound up only shooting 3 under par. So the fact that I let 4 strokes go, I mean, again, a 7 under round on this course would have probably been rated like in the 970s or maybe even 980s region. This round that I shot 3 under wound up being rated 927. So just imagine 4 more strokes added to that. It would have been an amazing round. And, you know, unfortunately, again, a couple of mental mishaps, but also just a couple of things where I felt I was just barely off. And so I was just a little bit unlucky, I think. But definitely there was a couple of mental mishaps. And so with that said, I was 3 under par, rated a 927, and I had a 1-stroke lead going into round number 2. I was in a field of, I think, 28 players, so I was in the lead by a stroke heading into the second round, going over to the OG course, and that video will be up soon, or it may already be up depending on when you watch it. I'm releasing it the day after I release this video. So anyway, folks, once again, hope you enjoyed the content. Catch you next time.